If you hear your name whispered from outside a place no one should even know you're in, don't answer. I almost did. This happened about 8 months ago when I was 24. I'd just come out of a messy situation. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, but enough bad decisions stacked together that I needed distance. Not from people, from patterns. From the version of me that kept ending up in the wrong places at the wrong time. So I did what everyone does when they think a change of scenery will fix something internal. I booked a last-minute trip. Not a beach resort, not a city. A fire lookout tower in northern Montana. Yeah, one of those isolated towers deep in the woods. The kind you see in old photos. One room, raised above the trees, accessible by a long metal staircase. No neighbors, no signal, just forest in every direction. It was cheap, way too cheap. I should have questioned that. I didn't. The drive alone should have been a warning. The GPS cut out about 30 minutes before I arrived, and the road turned from pavement to dirt to something that barely qualified as a path. By the time I saw the tower, the sun was already starting to drop behind the mountains. It looked abandoned. Not cozy cabin in the woods abandoned, more like nobody had cared about it in years. The paint was chipped, the railings rusted, and the staircase creaked with every step, like it was debating whether to hold my weight. Still, I'd already paid, and honestly, part of me liked how cut off it felt. No distractions, no people, no past catching up. At least that's what I thought. Inside, the space was smaller than I expected. A bed pushed against one wall, a folding table, a dusty lantern, and windows on all sides. No curtains, just glass looking out over miles of black forest. You could see everything, which means everything could see you. I laughed that thought off at first, locked the trap door at the top of the stairs, dropped my bag, and just stood there for a while, listening. Nothing. No cars, no voices, not even wind really. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that feels unnatural. I ate some snacks I brought, tried to scroll my phone out of habit, no signal obviously, and eventually just laid down. I remember thinking, this is exactly what I needed. That feeling lasted maybe 2 hours. I woke up suddenly, no idea why. No sound, no dream I could remember, just that sharp, instant awareness, like something had snapped me out of sleep. And then I heard it, a metallic tap. Not loud, not aggressive, just deliberate, coming from below. I stayed completely still, staring at that square of metal on the floor like it was about to explode open. Then, the handle shifted, just slightly. A soft metallic click. My stomach dropped. I had locked it. I knew I locked it. The handle moved again, a little harder this time. Not frantic, not panicked. Testing. Like whoever was down there was patient. I wanted to say something, ask them who it was, tell them to leave. But something in my gut told me, don't make yourself real to them. So I stayed silent. Seconds stretched, maybe minutes, I don't know. And then, a voice, low, calm, right through the metal between us. Ethan, I know you're up there. I swear to God, my vision blurred for a second.
I hadn't told anyone about this trip. Not my friends, not my family. I booked it alone, same day, under my own name. But still, no one knew where I was. No one should have been able to find me. The voice wasn't angry. That's what made it worse. It sounded certain, like this was expected. I backed away from the trapdoor, every instinct screaming at me to get as far from it as possible, but there was nowhere to go. It was one room, glass on all sides, nowhere to hide. The handle jerked harder this time, then stopped. Silence again. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe they'd leave. Then I heard footsteps, but not going down, circling around the base of the tower. Slow, measured, like they were taking their time, thinking. Every now and then, I'd catch a glimpse of movement through the windows, just a shadow passing between trees, too far to see clearly, but close enough to know they were still there, watching. At one point, I swear I saw them stop directly below one of the windows and just stand there, looking up. I dropped to the floor immediately, pressing myself flat, out of sight. My heart was so loud I was convinced it was echoing through the metal. Then, after what felt like forever, the footsteps faded. Minutes passed. Nothing. And then, an engine. Low, distant at first, then clearer. Not a car, an ATV. I crawled to the window, just enough to peek. Through the trees, I saw a single headlight moving away, weaving between the trunks until it disappeared completely. Gone, just like that. I didn't sleep again that night. The moment the sky started turning gray, I grabbed my stuff, unlocked the trapdoor, and got out of there as fast as I could. On the ground, I found tracks, deep tire marks leading up to the tower, boot prints circling it, fresh. Whoever it was had been there a while, waiting. I drove straight back without stopping, didn't tell anyone for a couple days. Honestly, I was trying to convince myself it wasn't what it felt like. But here's the part that still messes with me. When I finally checked my booking confirmation again, really looked at it, the listing had a contact number. I called it, disconnected. The website, gone, like it never existed. And the tower? I tried to find it again on the map. Couldn't. No listing, no records, nothing. Just forest. I don't know who that was. I don't know how they knew my name, but I keep thinking about something. That voice didn't sound surprised I was there. It sounded like they were making sure I hadn't left yet.
I knew something was wrong the second I unlocked the apartment, because the air inside felt used. Not stale, used. Like someone had been breathing it minutes before I got there. This was back when I was 25, living alone in a mid-sized college town in Oregon. I'd just started a contract job inspecting older buildings, mostly structural safety stuff. Cracks, load-bearing walls, that kind of thing. Nothing exciting. Just enough to pay rent in a place that always smelled faintly like wet carpet. The apartment complex itself wasn't anything special. 3 floors, long exterior hallways, the kind of place where you hear your neighbors more than you see them. But it was cheap, and I didn't ask questions. At least, not at first. The first week was normal, quiet, boring even. I'd come home, microwave something, fall asleep to YouTube. Then one night, I noticed my bathroom light was on. I remember standing in the doorway, just staring at it. I was absolutely sure I'd turned it off before leaving that morning. I even had this habit of double-checking switches, something my dad drilled into me as a kid. Still, I shrugged it off. Maybe I was tired, maybe I forgot. But then it happened again, and again. Lights, cabinets, once even my bedroom window cracked open just enough to let in cold air. That's when it stopped feeling like forgetfulness and started feeling like a pattern. I bought a cheap indoor camera. Nothing fancy, just something I could point at the living room while I was gone. The first 2 days, nothing. Third day, I almost didn't check. I wish I hadn't. The footage started normal. Empty room, couch, coffee table. Around 2:14 p.m., something shifted. Not dramatically, not like a door opening or a shadow moving. The closet door at the end of the hallway moved, just a few inches, and then it stopped. I replayed it 5 times. There was no draft, no open windows, no pets. Just that door, slowly easing open. I laughed at first, nervous, stupid laugh, told myself it was the building settling or pressure changes or whatever explanation felt least insane. But that night, I did something different. I locked the closet. I even wedged a chair under the handle. Overkill, maybe, but it made me feel better. For about an hour. Because at 3:07 a.m., I woke up. Not to a noise, to a feeling. You ever wake up and just know you're not alone? That's what it was. I didn't move, didn't even open my eyes at first. I just listened. And then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, controlled, close. My eyes snapped open, and I swear for a split second I saw something shift near the foot of my bed, like a shape pulling back into the dark. I bolted upright, flipped the lamp on. Nothing. Empty room. But the closet door? Wide open. Chair still wedged under the handle, but somehow pushed aside. That's when fear turned into something sharper. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and checked every inch of that apartment. Kitchen, bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. No one. No signs of forced entry. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I called my landlord, told him everything, the footage, the closet, the breathing. He didn't seem surprised. That's what got me. Not concerned, not confused, just quiet. Then he said something I still think about. Old buildings make noise, he told me. They shift, they settle. You'll get used to it. Get used to it? Like this was normal. I pushed harder, asked if anyone had a key, maintenance, cleaners, anyone. He hesitated, then said no. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Because that same night, I checked the footage again, and this time I saw it clearly. 2:59 p.m., the closet door opened, but not by itself. A hand reached out first, pale, thin, too long. It gripped the edge of the door from the inside and slowly pulled it open. Then the camera glitched, just static. When it came back, the room was empty again. I didn't go back that night. I packed a bag and stayed at a motel across town. Next day, I broke my lease. Didn't argue, didn't fight for my deposit. I just left. Here's the part that still messes with me, though. A few weeks later, I went back during the day, with a friend this time, to grab the last of my stuff. Broad daylight, doors unlocked, nothing felt off. Until I checked the closet one last time. It was empty, but the back wall wasn't solid. There was a panel, slightly misaligned, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. We pushed it open, and behind it, there was space. Not a full room, more like a narrow crawl area between units, insulated poorly, just enough room for someone to move through, slowly, carefully, quietly. I never found out who or what was using it, but sometimes, late at night, I still wake up with that same feeling, like the air around me is already being breathed by someone else.
I knew something was wrong the second my roommate called my name from inside a building he wasn't even in. This was about 9 years ago, my last semester at a small college in upstate New York. I was majoring in anthropology, working on a final project about abandoned American institutions, places people were forced to live, recover, or disappear. Old psychiatric wards, juvenile detention centers, decommissioned rehab facilities, the kind of places that don't just get shut down, they get forgotten. One location kept coming up in my research. It sat on the edge of a dying industrial town, about 2 hours from campus. Officially, it had been a state-run recovery center in the early 1900s. Unofficially, the records were messy. Patients transferred without documentation, entire wings closed off with no explanation. By the late 80s, it was abandoned. After that, it became one of those places locals didn't like talking about. I never planned on going.
But one night, I mentioned it to my roommates, Evan and Cole, while we were drinking cheap beer and complaining about finals. They latched onto it immediately. Not in a serious way at first, more like, "Dude, that sounds insane, we should check it out," that kind of thing. Except the idea didn't die. A week later, we were in Evan's car at 1:30 in the morning, driving down a cracked highway with no streetlights, following GPS directions that kept cutting out. The town itself looked wrong. Half the buildings were boarded up. There were no cars, no lights in the windows. It felt less like a place people lived and more like something people had left behind in a hurry. The facility was about a mile outside town, hidden behind a collapsed chain-link fence and a line of dead trees. We parked a good distance away and walked the rest. I remember the silence first. Not quiet, actual silence. No wind, no insects, nothing. Just the sound of our footsteps crunching gravel. The building was massive. 3 floors, long wings branching out like arms, windows shattered, parts of the roof caved in. It didn't look haunted. It looked erased. We slipped inside through a broken side entrance. At first, it felt exactly how you'd expect. Dust, debris, old equipment scattered everywhere. Our flashlights cut through the dark in these narrow beams that made everything feel smaller than it was, like we were only seeing pieces of something much bigger. We stuck together, moving room to room. Some still had beds. Others had restraints bolted into the walls. There were faded signs, peeling paint, water damage creeping down the ceilings. And then we started noticing the doors. Some of them had been nailed shut from the outside. Not all of them, just certain ones. Cole made a joke about it, something like, "Yeah, that's not creepy at all." But nobody laughed. We kept going. After maybe 20 minutes, we split up. Not far, just different hallways that looped back toward the same central corridor. It felt safe enough, stupid in hindsight. I took the left wing. The further I went, the colder it got. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. My flashlight started flickering, which I blamed on cheap batteries, but it didn't help. I was halfway down a long hallway when I heard Evan's voice behind me. "Hey, you're going the wrong way." I turned immediately. No one was there. I remember feeling annoyed more than scared, like, okay, they're trying to mess with me, fine. I called back, told him to knock it off. No response. I kept walking. Then I heard it again, closer this time. "Seriously, don't go that way." Same voice, same tone, calm, almost bored. But something about it felt off, like the pacing of the words wasn't quite right, too even, too controlled. I stopped walking. "Evan?" I said. A pause. Then, from a room ahead of me on the right, I heard, "In here." That was Cole's voice. Clear, immediate. Now my brain started catching up. There was no way both of them had looped around me that fast without me hearing anything. No footsteps, no doors, nothing. Still, I moved toward the room, because what else was I going to do? The door was half open. Inside was completely dark. My flashlight barely reached the far wall. I pushed it open. There was someone standing inside, facing the corner. Tall, way taller than either of them, shoulders slightly hunched like they were trying to make themselves smaller. I remember thinking for just a second that it was a mannequin or something, some leftover medical prop. Then it moved, not turning around, just shifting its weight like it had been listening. I didn't wait. I backed out of that room so fast I almost fell, then turned and ran, full sprint down the hallway, yelling for Evan and Cole. I found them near the entrance we came in through. They were both there, together, laughing about something, until they saw my face. I didn't even have to explain. They knew something was wrong. I asked them straight up if either of them had called my name. They both said no. No hesitation, no joking. And the thing is, I believed them instantly, because whatever I heard, it wasn't just similar to their voices. It was exact. We didn't argue, we didn't debate, we just left. But as we were stepping back through the broken entrance, we heard something from deeper inside the building. A voice, soft, almost like it was struggling to get the words out. Wait. We froze. It sounded like me. Same pitch, same tone. Don't go. None of us turned around. We got back to campus and drove without saying a word for at least 10 minutes, just empty road, and that feeling sitting in the back seat with us. We tried to explain it later, echoes, acoustics, someone else in the building, but there's one detail none of us could ever make sense of. When we got back to campus, Cole checked the footage on his phone. He'd been recording on and off the whole time. There's a clip about 10 seconds long of me walking down that hallway alone. No one else is visible, but you can hear it, clear as day. My voice calling my own name from inside that room. And I don't remember saying it.